another 5 seconds. Countdown. You yourself do a countdown from 5.
Naveen, audio went off.
Audio went off.
Yeah. Sorry. You can start again, Janavi.
Good morning, everyone. This is Janvi Duneria from Virtusa. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us in today's session, which is based on importance of management skills. Management skills entail any skills one might need or have that allows them to take charge or manage others effectively. Being able to communicate clearly, coordinate and motivate others, as well as plan tasks effectively, are vital skills that everyone should have. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce to you to our speaker today, Dr. Ashwin, who is going to talk to us about these very skills. Dr. Ashwin is an impactful leader and a veteran in the IT skill set with more than 24 years of experience. He has worked in various domains such as retail, banking, education, travel, logistics, etc. Along with Virtusa, he has worked with top-tier companies namely Infoview, Wipro, TSQ, and TCS. He likes interacting with freshers and mentors them across the country, which is an effective way of helping them to progress in their further careers. Thank you all again for joining us. Over to you, Ashwin.
Thanks, Janvi. Thanks, Kruti, and the entire Naveen and the entire GTP team of Virtusa. So, Kruti, I will start presenting. Let me know if you're able to see the screen. Kruti, are you able to see? Kruti, you're able to see?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. First of all, thanks for the opportunity. And this is part of the employment series that we are doing. In fact, this is my second. First, we had an introductory session. Then we had I had told that we'll have 8 sessions on employment series. And last week, 2 weeks back, we had technical skills, and today we'll have management skills. So thanks for the opportunity. And this is I always start my sessions with this. Dream is not what you see in sleep. Dream is something which doesn't let you sleep. There is a very inert meaning to this. This keeps me awake. This keeps me pursue my dreams, pursue towards the goals that I've set, and the visions that I have for myself, my family, and for the society. So, and deepest gratitude for this opportunity starting this session. So, this is the whole pretext, and I will give a precursor to this before I get into management skill, because this is a series of employment. I will start off with maybe a 10-minute or a 5-minute discussion on what I have covered so far, so that people get a context for new joiners. For people who are already attended my session, this can be a little bit of repeat, but then just bear with me for 5-10 minutes. So the entire context is from a corporate world. How do you get yourself qualified apart from being certified? So you guys would have seen a lot of negative news about job loss, about people losing their jobs, COVID situation, market is down. But let's understand, let's take any company. So let's take one of the worst scenarios. They shed about 10% of their workforce. Why do they shed that 10% and keep that 90%? What does that 90% have that the 10% did not have? Why can't we focus on that 90% and ensure that we are part of that 90%? So that's the idea of it. And if you look at it, right, anybody to get a job will be certified. They will have a degree, they will have their prerequisites to them. But what keeps them in the job or what gets them into newer roles are qualifications. How qualified are they? So, and this is not to belittle certification. Certification is very important. But then how else? That is not the only thing. You have to be qualified. And that's the entire concept about employability. And we'll focus on that point of view. So these are the 8 subjects that we will touch upon. And last week we focused on technology skills. Specifically, that was more IT oriented. Today would be useful for any engineering grad or even a non-engineering grad to get into a corporate world, management skills. And the other sessions will be on communications, positive intention, emotional intelligence, soft skills, personal USP, and learning skills. So today the focus is going to be on management skills. But what I will do is the next 3 slides, I will just brush through what I just covered in the technology top 3 slides on technology, just for people to get a context of what was covered last session. My technology skills, if you look at it, right, fundamentals, that's what you do in your college, right? Focusing on fundamentals. The most important part of it is, if you are not into coding, it is going to be very difficult for you to get into the IT field. You have to know coding. You have to, when I say no coding, coding in as art, we covered that session. I would request, if you are interested, go to the, it is there in the LinkedIn, which Kriti has put. The session is there, previous session on technology skills. Please have a look at it. I have talked in depth about coding as an art, because that's where it is. For a doctor, if your sense of knowing the body is the core, for the IT world, coding is very important, and this is exclusively for IT. And we covered about full stack engineering, data engineering tools, exposure to AI ML. So these are the things which we covered, and we also covered what is coding as an art. How you have to be equipped in 1-2 languages for sure, how you should focus on logical thinking and be detailed oriented, understand the concept of computing. Abstractly, how can you think problem statements in terms of how a computer can work, how you can separate out the problem, logically separate it out, scientific method, it is not by chance all these things happen, and how you can be self-reliant and not focus only on cut and paste code. So these are things which we covered, and the last slide which I covered was a roadmap, which I feel is very important and very valid for an IT, anybody referring to an IT, this will be very useful for them. They join engineering, what all they should do. Ideally, they should start in the second year or first year, but then even if you're in the third year, time is not lost, you can still make it up. So fundamentals, language, scripting language, architecture, full stack exposure, and there are a lot of training programs, there are a lot of materials available in Udemy, in other courses which you can take, but this is your roadmap. So let me take a quick this thing there. So this is where we ended in terms of technical skills. Okay. So that's where we stopped in terms of how technology important. And if you talk about other fields, right, if you get into mechanical, whatever you choose, today superficial knowledge does not work, because all the superficial knowledge computer knows, because everything is coded, everything is automated. You need to know your fundamentals well. You need to know whatever, when I say technology for IT, it is the language and other things, but for other fields, it's their field of what they choose. If you choose civil, if you choose whatever, right, how good they are makes a difference. Kriti, just a quick check. Naveen and Kriti, you're able to hear me and see the presentation, right? Kriti, Naveen?
Yes, Dr. Ashwin.
Okay, so just a quick check, because I should, yeah. So this is the, today we'll focus, I think we will, most probably will try to end this session presentation by around, say another half an hour or so. And you can post the questions in the chat, which you can see. And Naveen, the chat is open, right? So you can post your questions there. So that when I start taking the questions, we will take the questions one by one. Okay. So mostly around 11:15 or so, we will open up for questions. But you can start putting the questions now itself. So in terms of management skills, this is the one skill. I talked about a lot of things, right? Communication, technical, emotional. It integrates everything and delivers. And people have a general view of management means it's only management of others. Actually, it starts from self-management. How can you manage your work, your capabilities, your deliverables is the precursor to manage people. So people generally think that they can manage people without managing themselves, which is the misnomer, right? You definitely have to do self-management before you can manage people or work with people. And people will respect you only if you manage yourself properly. So that's the self-management, which is very important, which I'll touch upon certain concepts. And this is the skill which integrates all the skills and packages it to the team, and packages to the customer, packages to the as a deliverable. Okay, so that's from a management skills perspective. And I just want to give, and this is slightly filtered towards IT, but then a lot of businesses can relate to it, how business has evolved. If you see from the world, it's speed of execution. So complex IT took often years. This is the first, the second column is about previous thing. Now, complex IT projects often took years, forming a large gap between initial idea and final execution. What happened was, it's like building a dam or building this thing, right? It took 5 years, 4 years projects. So what the initial idea and the final execution, there was a lot of difference. Today, in the agile world and in the enterprise class, you can create websites in a click of a button. Just use your credit card, click of a button, you get a website. Then you can add features to it. So things have changed. Project management, typical waterfall. When I say waterfall, first requirement collection happens, then it is signed off, then design happens, design gets signed off, then high level design happens, low level design happens, then development happens. But now the agile and the DevOps world, everything is parallel, or everything takes, we have 2 week sprints. People talk about large projects within a month, taking something to production and then building upon it. Okay, so things have really changed from a project management side. Then IT spending. Previously, IT department alone used to spend. They are the IT owners. But look, now everybody understands IT. So business functions, right? If you are a marketing department, they understand IT. So they give the businesses also. So it is very different that we used to talk only to the IT department. Now we talk to the entire business functions. IT knowledge. Previously used to be, now kids know coding, correct? So now you can see a lot of Googlers and a lot of kids know coding. So how different are you from a kid who can develop a code? Location of infrastructure. You see now with this COVID situation, you can see a lot of people, last 2 points are related to each other. Infrastructure, definitely on the cloud. If not on a private cloud, public cloud is on a private cloud, definitely on the cloud. And location of work, now we don't know when we'll go to office, but still work is going on. So the thing is, business has evolved and it is evolving, and this COVID has brought in a new spin and a very different spin which we haven't seen yet, right? And we do not know this entire field, but definitely things have changed. So what it requires is our management skills also have changed. How people, when I joined as a fresher, and this is very important, I always try to relate to what I have done, because it'll be close to me and I can talk very passionately about it. When I joined IT, it took about 1 year for me to be useful for the company. Okay, literally more than, at least I would say about 8-10 months. Today, a fresher joins does not have that luxury. We have to have them productive from day one, if not day zero. Okay, so we already have people have started taking interns, right? People, even in the colleges, people use them in projects. So things have really changed, and I feel there are some colleges which have taken up, some students have taken up, but not the entire world. People are sticking to the stigma that there is a job problem. Yes, there is a problem, but for that you have taken engineering as anybody who's in the second year or a third year, you have taken engineering. Now you need to make it work. So how do you make it work? Think, read, use these sessions, use sessions from other speakers, not only from Vachusa, from other companies also. Use it, try to start, and people have this, if I choose something, is it right? My suggestion would be choose something. Start, it's always better to try and fail rather than not trying at all. So please do that. Start learning and making yourself qualified for a job. Choose anything. I covered about previous things. You can go back to my previous talks also for any specific reference. Okay, so that's how business has evolved. And this very different slide, whatever, these are the why management skills are key in the new business landscape. It was always important, but it has become more important because agility and complexity. the projects which we get are very, very complex. It is not that simple insert, update, delete projects that we used to call them when I started as a fresher. Today you have to talk to different devices, you have to do data analysis, the load is different, it has to work on cloud, it has to work on mobile, it has to work on different devices. Previously, different browsers was a problem. Now devices, it is about security issues. Complexity has risen to a level which you can't imagine. So agility and complexity have increased. So it is not about one manager managing the project. It is about each individual managing their own work and their interactions. Think about this like this. Previously, it used to be one big program and which was massively managed by a big manager and then a module leader. Now it's all small parts. Each one manages whatever they do and they also manage their interactions. So that is the key there. So collaboration is very important. Self-initiation is very important because gone are those days where people will exactly tell you what to do, what not to do, what to take. This is now everything. If you need to grow, because what will happen is somebody will take it and go, and that is the 90% which is the 10% has not taken the job and run. So the 10% who lose their job is not taking the job and run. They have not equipped themselves to be ready. Criticality. Previously, what used to be outsourced to India were the small projects, right? Even if it fails, even if it's back-end system, it may be reporting, it may be like thing. But then today we work on projects like that business critical. Basically, say if the bank's future is dependent on that program, or we work on healthcare systems which are human touching, right? We work on telecom. If it fails, the entire city comes down. So this is how the complexity of the projects and criticality of the end project changes. And then the time, cost, quality. We used to say, I don't know, it's a very different subject, but let me spend 2 minutes on it. There is 3 paradigms: time, cost, and quality. When I used to start my career, people used to say customers have to choose 2. They can't have all 3. For example, if you want it early, you can't get a good cost, and you can't get a good cost. But if you want quality, you will need time and cost. So, but now all the 3 are needed. All the 3 are needed. How do we make it work? And that's how we win projects. So, and there's last but not the least, direct visibility. When I joined as a fresher, or many people joined as a fresher, you are not visible. You are not visible to the customer. Customer will not even know your name. Will know your employee ID, or will know just your name for the creating the ID. Today in the agile world, people know each one of the team members. So there is direct focus. They will ask you, Ashwin, what have you done? Kriti, what have you done? What is your contribution to the project? So there is individual focus, and it is very good because that's where you get to know, do different things, and there is direct visibility. And that's where you fail also. So people fail when they are put in the focus. So we are so used to projects where we come under the radar of somebody, but now when we start getting exposed, it's a good thing, but then you have to be equipped enough to face that goodness. So that's very important. So these are the why management skills are key in the new business landscape. And this is the most important slide. In fact, I would say this is the one slide for today's session, and I will spend a lot of time on this. In terms of, see, these are the management skills, and this is directly in terms of not theory, and it will be too texty because I wanted to talk about it rather than theory around it. See, planning and integration. Okay, so people can talk as a fresher. Why should I do planning and all? It is actually a wrong concept, because once you join a project, people will ask you, you have to do this coding, this level of screen coding, or this service. How much time do you think you will take? You should be able to estimate. For that, for giving an estimation, you should know what it is. You should be equipped to know what it is. You should also know, if you don't know certain things, to learn. So planning and integration is not a project manager's job alone. Project manager collates everything, but then the team members have to give the inputs about planning and integration, to plan and also about integrate. It is not your work. Whatever projects you have done in college, maybe you have done for 3-4 people, may not be integrating to many things. But in the enterprise world, imagine you are working for a bank. There is security department, there are different bank departments. Your code not only works within your department, it will interact with multiple other departments. How does your project, how does your program interacts? So this is an important management skill if you talk about planning and integration. So when you take up work, how well can you plan? How well can you, and sometimes saying no, somebody asking you, this is not possible. And just by saying generally no for everything doesn't work. But if you tell no with a reason, for example, somebody gives you a very complex program, and you can tell, if you can explain him why is it so complex that you cannot take it within the required time, or you can finish only this in the required time, that makes a lot of difference and people will come back to you. Then requirements understanding, this is another one. In terms of, I've seen a lot of people, they don't question at all. First you should question. You should question the requirements, understand the requirements, but once you understand, you should comply. The problem is we have three varieties of people. One is they don't question at all, big problem. One is people only question, they don't comply. So there are stages in a project where you question, there are stages in a project where you comply. So you need to be intelligent enough to get to the story of where should I question, where should I comply. The non-functional requirements, some today the projects, most of it are not written because it is always implicit. You should derive implicit requirements. There are also non-functional requirements like performance, scalable, security, and non-functional means, for example, if somebody says, I want to create a website, it means automatically it should not be act. It means automatically it should be scalable to an extent which you can ask for. It should be performant. For example, if I click a screen and takes 1 hour to come up, doesn't matter if you have the best code that you write, correct? So you should understand the non-functional requirements. Functional is what will you do in the screen? I want to choose this, that's functional. But the non-functional is performance, scalable, what's the UI look like, all that from a non-functional standpoint. So understanding the requirements and implementing it. So what some people only try to understand, but then it is also taking it to closure. You have to implement it. And that's an important management skills. And these are all you can talk about. Don't think management means managing people alone. Management means different management where self-management is the key. Then it comes to time management. So when it comes to time management, it's about ability. Today, you have meetings because of the COVID world, you have meetings, you have internal meetings, you have team meetings, you have customer calls, you also have to work on your deliverables. How do you manage time? How do you say no to certain things and focus on certain things which are key? How do you differentiate between critical and important? Okay, so critical and urgent, because some things can be so urgent and you have to do it, but some things can be critical because if you don't do it, it will become very urgent. Then ability to schedule work so that integration, because if your module has to be ready first, you have to be ready first, only then the other module can work. Then you have to understand the sequencing of events also. So time management is another important concept, and these are techniques which one day you won't come. I would suggest to the freshers, start developing it in college in small ways. You take up small projects, when you take up an internship, when you take up a small project, try to incorporate these things in the ways possible. And now that a lot of companies have a lot of their center of excellences, or they have a lot of these tech talks. Use these to understand this. Reporting and compliance, very important. This I get accurately giving status of your work. This either or doesn't work, right? Are you ready or not? Because most of the time, or what is ready, what is not. So you need to be accurately giving status. You need to be following requirements. You need to be following technology and quality guidelines. Security is big time, big folks. This with the COVID situation and all these situations happening, there is an entire field coming about with site. It's already big one, but it is becoming very, very important, because whatever you write has to be on security guidelines. Otherwise, whatever you do doesn't make sense. The last one is very important in terms of big picture. This is what makes or breaks a fresher or anybody in the team, I would say. When they can understand how this project is critical for example, Virtusa or Wipro or any company does project for some customer. How critical is this for Virtusa? How critical is this for the end customer? How critical is this for the user of this project? For example, you develop a website for a bank. Who are the customers? It can be businesses, it can be you and me who are using it. So how is this critical? What is the current status? Many times people ask simple, they don't understand the status of the project. The project can be in deep red, and these guys will talk about something which is irrelevant to the project. So should understand the current status of the project. What phase of project leading into? What is the next phase of project? Because maybe there are contractual obligations. If you don't complete this, another contract will not get signed, or another phase will not get signed, or only if this works, they will spend money. You should know a big picture and start questioning. If you start talking to your seniors, they will be more than happy to. There will be obviously that 5% of people who don't want to share, but let's focus on the 95% of people who want to share. That's the big picture. So this is not, these skills are not, what I have done is from my own experience and by talking to a lot of delivery heads, lot of this industry spokes, and also part of my thesis. I forgot it. So I did this thesis on employable, this entire employment series was part of my the doctorate that I have done, and so I became a doctorate using that thesis only. So in terms of, so I took up technical skills, I took up management skills, and I took up communication skills. So I went deep, and this management skill is one of the key factors which determine whether you are employable or not, or whether your employee is satisfied or not. So it is not, don't take it in a wrong sense of management is only about managing people. That is there, that will come. But more importantly, it's about self-management, about how do you do planning and integration, how do you do requirements understanding, how do you manage your time, how do you do reporting and compliance, how do you get a big picture of things. That's from a different skill sets. The below four are across the board, right? Ability to work in teams. And with the COVID situation, it is another, because people don't see each other for a long time. Sometimes video calls happen, sometimes it's more of an audio call, and people believe that you work on things. So, and you work for the project and work for the success of the project. So your ability to work in teams, with different teams and within your team, that makes a huge, you can be the best of the technology guy, but you're not able to work in a team. Yeah, you can be individual contributor, but then you need, whatever is you contribute has to be integrated. So you will have to talk to teams. Responsibility and integrity, that's very important. So when you take something, taking it to closure, seeing the end to it, in the sense it has to be deployed, taking it to the end-to-end responsibility. Integrity means if you say something, do you stick to it? You don't try to be smart and do non-integrity things which will affect the project. Decision making and compliance, very important. These are not only manager traits, right? You have to make decisions. Many times talking to a customer, because you people are representing your service providers to the customer, you will have to, sometimes you will have to be put in a spot and take a decision. You will take a decision, but ensure that your manager knows about the decision, and if there is something wrong, correct it. And complying to decisions made. Once project decisions are made, you have to comply also. If you have a problem and if you have a suggestion, of course you can tell. But then the art of decision making and compliance is a very important art. As I told you, self-discipline is very important. When you start work, and that too, now we don't have, when you swipe in time in office, right? We are all work from different, and going forward, you might have remote working will become a norm to a certain extent. How self-discipline you have, what is the time you spend with family, for your project, and within the project, how much time you spend on your learning, how much time you spend with integrating with people, how much time you spend on your specifically for the project developing your skills, very important. So To be very frank with you, today when somebody gets a project, I am 100% sure he will not know 100% how to do it. In the sense, suppose you are given work, there will be about 25% of the work minimum which you have to learn and do. So that's where the learnability comes. So you have to keep time to learn things and implement it. Now, I'm talking not learning from a futuristic perspective. Even to do your current work, there will obviously be some learning. Don't try to cut and paste and not learn. Because what happens is if you cut and paste code, you can, but then you should learn. You should learn and write it on your own, because that's where a lot of bugs come in. And that's where a lot of dead code also sits in the various systems. Okay. So this is a very important slide, and we will share this anyway. This talk will be shared, so this slides will be part of it. And anybody wants specifically the slides also, you can get in touch with the GTP team, Naveen and Kriti. We can share the slides also. And this, according to me, is a very another. A person's contribution goes through 4 stages. First, dependently, right? Willingly accept supervision. Accepting supervision is a talent to be, and that too to this generation of folks, right? Willingly accept supervision, because supervision is important to an extent. Demonstrate competency on a portion of a larger project. So apart from what you do, what is your competency? Performs effectively the routine tasks. You can read it for, and learns how we do things. Performs well within time and budget pressure. This is dependently. You work, then you work independently. Lesser supervision develops credibility and reputation, builds in a network. People know whom you are, and they don't have to check your work. Then through others, you can influence others. You can start handling smaller teams, develops broader business perspective through others. The fourth one is strategically. What you are can be useful for the company at a large. Strategic direction. How do you work for companies' strategic goals and objectives? So these are 4 stages of contribution. See, whatever it goes through, maybe it gets shrunk in this new world, but then it goes through this. A person's contribution goes through these 4 stages: dependently, independently, through others, and strategically. And managing yourself across these 4 stages becomes key, very key for you. Because what happens is, when you are dependently, you should learn. When you're independently, you should demonstrate. When you work through others, you should work through their own advantages and disadvantages, competencies and not so competencies. And strategically, how do you empower all this and produce a solution for the company? So you will go through, once you join a company, you will go through these. And how well can you get equipped from a mental framework for this contribution stages is very important. And managing yourself through these stages is another important talent. So understand that you will go through these stages. Nobody will start looking at, whenever I go to a fresher, right, of a class, they say, people say, can I directly work in blockchain? Yes, you can, because you have learned. But then go through these stages. Can I independently do something can I independently deliver something? Can go through others? Then strategically, can I implement something which will make people see me? Go through these stages. You cannot short circuit these stages. You can shorten it with your talent and focus, but you will go through these stages. And how teams are formed in terms of, this is a model, Tuckman's model. I have not written, I've just tried to put it. First, the team is formed. Team members meet each other. They learn about the task, then learn what their roles will be. That's forming. This thing is forming. Then there is storming. Team members learn how to work together. It's a very different. You will learn when you term. It's not about corporate projects are very different. People have different views. Customer has different views. Different departments have different views. So then team member learn about other members. The leader focuses the team. Then there is norming. Team starts working together. Roles evolve into helping the team succeed. Team members are more likely to express opinions. And this is where people express opinions. Then performing, where team members work hard towards the goal. Members are flexible with help each other. Leader's role is blood. Everybody is focused. Now, this is where forming, storming, norming, performing. The issue today is everybody starts looking at the leader's role is blood, everyone is focused. Now we need to develop our self-management skills and focus on our competency so that we get to this performing stage very soon, as soon as possible. So that teams which get formed should be so competent enough that we should be able to get to the performance stage very soon. So that's the challenge all about. The agile teams is all about that quickly, and what to develop that, right? The project size is also shrunk. The project size is also split it into sprints, which are very small. So the entire model is tuned also to get this. But then uh, this is where our mental block of, okay, now I've got the job, I will take some rest. It doesn't work. Once you get the job, that's when the game actually starts. You should start getting into the performance stage, and now you can help each other understand that this is a stage and people are expecting you to get to the performing stage as soon as possible will make a difference because you can focus on it. That's from a forming, storming, norming, and performing stage. And this is not my model. This is a Tuckman's model. It's a known model in HR. This thing. We have to focus our management skills about managing us and our team into these stages. And this is a couple of my last slides. If you look at this, right, this is an early stage of employee connection. Your competency, your commitment, and you're finding the meaning. As I told you, the why the project and why. When all three combines, that's when productivity happens. So managing your competency, managing your commitment, and managing the why of the project. Why of the project, why it is given to you, why you are the best person to do that, and finding all this will make it more productive. This were the, from a slide sprint, these were the slides which I wanted to cover. But before we get into questions, let me take, because I rushed. In terms of, I told you about this, right? How business has evolved. So people have to understand it, this particular slide, in terms of business has changed for good, and it is helping the companies like us to deliver fast. Okay, so because previously we used to have projects which are 2 years, we do not know whether we'll be able to satisfy the customer. Now projects are only 2 months, 3 months, 1 month, 4 months. We now know quickly, and we also learn fast and quickly. But then our team, the teams which join, need to be aligned for this growth journey, need to be aligned for this superlative, high intense and high learning environment. People come into jobs thinking it's going to be a very pleasant, I have learned in college and I don't have to learn anymore. That's the problem. Today, the best of the persons, as I told you, may be knowing 60 to 70%, 30% they have to learn. So get your learning curves and learning time very important. That's the key. And you should understand it that this 30% of learning is a very complicated stuff. I have to learn in my role. Kriti has to learn in his role, and we are seeing it. And with this COVID situation, we are supposed to learn. My manager comes and asks me about finance. Sometimes I learn certain things which I'm not related to also. So be ready for learning. Keywords today will be and there's a separate session on learning also. How can you manage yourself to be a better learner is the first point which you have to take home today. Second one is in terms of these skills, planning and integration, requirements understanding, time management. How can you report the correct status? Start doing it for your small project. Start as an intern. How do you get to a big picture? Suppose you are working as an intern. How can you ensure that you understand what the project is about? Spend time with seniors to learn it. Then all the three: ability to work, responsibility and integrity, decision making, self-discipline. These are all obvious things, but then it is not obvious when people join. And when hard times, this gets very difficult. So this is a very important slide, and we will share the deck to whomever wants, and it is for this videos anyway in Facebook and LinkedIn, which you can see. Understand these stages of contribution so that you can manage your time, your competency based on these contribution. Understand how teams are formed at a very high level so that you know what is happening when you join teams. and understand that competence, commitment and connection leads to productivity. And when you may say competence, it is about ability to do the work, willingness to do the work, and finding meaning. Any one is down, productivity will be less. If you're not competent, even commitment and connection, you will not be able to deliver. If you're competent and you don't want to do work, you will not be able to deliver. But if you have and if you only have the why, I know why I am doing it, but I am not competent, I am not committed, you can't do. All the three should work at the same time, and that's where magic happens in terms of productivity. So that's what I have to cover from a slide front, Kriti and Naveen. We can open it up for questions, and finally, before we end, I will take about a couple of minutes to summarize.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Ashwin. So we'll start off with the questions. And guys, we already have 3-4 questions, but keep the questions flowing. I will be able to read it out to Dr. Ashwin. So to start off with, good morning. In this COVID situation, our colleges are closed and we won't have access to a lot of our faculty. So what type of projects can we do on our own that will be helpful in this situation? Can you guide us?
Yeah, it's a good one. So what you can do, see, if you join the courses on the net, there are a lot of free courses, there are a lot of paid courses. You can join even training programs which give internship, which give training on, say, AIML, full stack, Java. A lot of things are there. You can join those training programs. Keep reading, and take some small projects. Like you can see that in the net itself, you can definitely all these training programs I thought about. Don't take training programs which are only book based, because that you can do. Take training program. Code is your only output. Everybody should have a GitHub login. You should start putting whatever small code you write. Even you write hello world, put it there. And that's where you can see, when you go, if you see my previous presentations, in the future, your coding is your resume. You can just showcase your code and say, this is what I've done. This is my resume. These are the three different. So take up projects, small projects like data connectivity, or you can take, if you go through those programs, you will see a lot of small stuff. Do something. Or if your colleges are having a relationship with different companies like Virtusa, Wipro, please use those relationships. The technical managers and architects will be more than happy to share. Obviously, time is a constraint, but then they will share. Get into internship model, because now everybody works remotely. So even our freshers, even our interns work remotely now. So start doing it. A long-winded answer, but internet is a very good example. Join a training program, work with your COEs in the college, work with in terms of mentors that you can find. And if you search on the net, right, and if you look at my previous sessions, I've given certain websites. You can look at a lot of how to improve your coding style, how do you improve your review style. All that can be done. Take some certification, that also help. Take cloud certification, take Java certification, but do it not to get certified, but to get qualified. So just a paper certification will have no value. Next one, Naveen. Naveen, you able to hear me? Kriti?
Yes, Dr. Ashwin. Pardon, I was on mute. Thank you. Like, the next question is from Dr. R. Karthikeyan from PSN Engineering College. He wants to know, what is the scope of agile processing in software development in the future?
Agile is the only model. In fact, a lot of people, you'll be surprised. We talk about agile, but then only 50-60% of our projects are still agile. So but it is only moving. Every project wants to move into agile. So agile is important, but then see, if you look at it, right, agile is just a way of working, right? The model is working. Whatever I talked about, the team managing yourself, managing your competency will never get changed. And it is going to getting complex, because it will be agile means faster, agile means quicker, agile means failing fast and getting to the production. So agile is a huge standpoint from a development methodology, because any customer we talk to, some flavor of agile. We are talking about remote agile. We are talking about on-site offshore agile. So we are talking about the Scrum teams and ready-made Scrum teams. Things like, can you, rather than technical Scrum, we are now talking about functional Scrums. So if you take banking, I don't want to get it complicated with that, but if you look at banking, right? Banking has different concept. Say corporate banking, personal banking, then a lot of other divisions, right? Loans and all that. Can you have squads which has a BA, which has a testing, which has developers, which has a project, which has a Scrum Master and spot. That's called, how can you create squads? And that is a model where people are not asking for resources. People are, can you give us webcom, e-com pods? Okay, so it's about giving a total 10-member team who is agile, who can get that work done. So it is moving, definite focus, but then I would say don't think agile as a project manager's job. Agile is everybody's job in the project. Nobody's, it's because that's where the self-initiation parts. It is about all tool-based, everything, this thing will be open. There will be a Scrum Master, there will be a Scrum, but then more importantly, individual has to develop that and be responsible of what they do. I will tell you folks, the difference is, when I was a big company before that, I don't want to name the company or name the customer. We did one website which took about 200 people. You won't believe me, 1.5 years, 200 people, which is about 6 years, 7 years back, 200 people. And this is for a large customer in the US. Large, literally large, is a 40-60 billion company, USD company. If we do this project today, it would be done by 20 people in an agile way. That was done in a different model. If 20 people would do with about maybe 6 months, maybe, or maybe lesser. Okay, so that's the level of agile and this thing which we have with our DevOps and other tools. Understand that. So the simple answer to your question is agile is going to stay, but DevOps and all that will get added to it. So it's not about having project managers or Scrum Masters. It's about everybody in the team should know agile and be agile.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. The next one is certification mandatory to show your expertise? Is certification the only thing which is required to show your expertise in a specific language?
See, it's a nice thing to have, but not the only thing to have. So it's like your if you get certified, see, only when you do certification you start learning it, right? But don't learn it for the certification. That's the issue there. If you learn only for the certify, you are not qualified. You will get only a degree, or you will get one paper, which is not going to be useful. But if you take it from being qualified, and even today, right, lot of these certifications are also about writing code. It's not about just going and ticking the right answer, right? And that is just you can just mug and go. But in terms of how qualified are you get and how practically you can apply that makes the difference. So I would say it's good, nice to have, but then the most important thing is to get qualified. Understand the different concepts. If you are taking Java, you in the process of getting your certified, how well you get qualified for it, different concepts of Java, different how full stack you are, how mean stack you are, or how can you take up this. As I told you the previous session, I talked about it, right? People want to start directly with AI/ML, want to start directly as a data scientist. Yes, you can, but then go through the fundamentals. What will happen is it will give you a better understanding. People will start looking at you as a IT professional rather than one simple specialist. So that's where I would say certification is nice, but qualification is all important. Okay, and I don't want to be like there are, for example, these AI/ML certifications. There are a lot of trainings which happen. It's good, but in the process, learn it to develop code, and that's where I said all of you, any code you write, you learn, go to a code. You should be in GitHub, so you can see your own code. You see your own code and ask for yourself. Okay, so that's where is the that's what I will say in terms of certification, and get qualified. That's more important.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. The next one is actually from Mr. Krishnendu Banerjee from University of Calcutta. He wants to know what is the weightage given to a management skill compared to tech skills for a fresher.
Yeah, so it would be around, see, for example, typically you see, right, you get an test that you write, or you do some coding that you write, coding that you do. That's your primary concept. Once you clear that, only you get into HR rounds and group discussions and other sort of activities. Correct? That's we check that in the interview. Self-management checks. And when I said management is not about managing people alone. It is about managing yourself, managing your time, managing. That is definitely checked. I would say 50% of, if your technical is 50, your management skills are 50. Management means not managing people. Managing is self-management. How can you manage your time? How can you manage your learning? How can you manage escalation? How do you if somebody points mistake at you, how can you manage yourself? How can you recover from a situation? Those are all management things. So in terms of, I would say it's a 50-50, but initially you are right. First step one is you have to be technically competent. You have to be really technically competent. But then this, as I told you, it is not about either this, it's about everything. And that's where you should all understand that even the southern world of India, right? I think, I do not know the numbers, right? Around 6.5 people complete college. Okay, and and only maybe initially 50% gets job right away, right? That 50, so that 50% rate getting right away, if you ask me, should be technically and also having these management skills. And when I say management, it is not about managing people, it's about self-management. As whatever I talked about, integrity, all those are self-management. So I would say it's a 50-50.
Got it. The next question is from Anuraj Dwivedi. He wants to know, good morning. What's the scope of digital marketing for engineering graduates because of the extended lockdown and the emergence of digital market nowadays? Do engineers will be used for digital marketing?
Digital marketing, see, it's about the question may be a little bit vague, because if it means only about marketing, or is it about developing something for marketing, there are two different things. Digital marketing, I think people, I don't see engineers getting into digital marketing, and maybe if they're interested, they can go into doing an MBA, doing there. But their digital marketing also is about creating lot of content, which is technically in terms of, let me explain you in this way. Digital marketing requires a lot of technology concepts also, because digital, the end is marketing, but then you do a lot of data analysis in terms of getting to your getting to know the people who want to buy your product, right? So doing data analysis, doing or getting a feel of from the market, those things engineers are going to be useful. I say the plain digital marketing should be allowed to left to that team to do. Engineers should not get into that. But if they're interested, they can learn that and do. That's a different story. They're getting into marketing, but digital skills, digital equip. In fact, digital. When we call digital skills, we talk about UI skills. We talk about full stack. We talk about lot of data analytics, lot of data being part of it. Technology folks has a huge landscape, but plain marketing we should allow the marketing people to do. We should not take their jobs.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. The next question is, I mean, you will be the best person to answer this question. As a non-IT department student in engineering, we are encouraged to learn programming. While there are already a bunch of students in IT, CS, and MCA departments, and the number of opportunities are comparatively less, how can we improve our situation? I mean, if you can give your example itself, that he might be able to understand in this.
It is about, say, engineering gives you the thinking capacity to do things. Okay, it gives you the mindset, and IT is all about that, about inventing that skill in you. Okay, so I am an electronics and communication student. So I went, when I joined that point of time, we didn't have the luxury of internet and mobile and all that learning and all. So when I went, I did not know what was a computer. I've just seen computer lab, computer I've touched, that's all. And did some programs. That's so I owe my entire this thing to my first company who taught me how to do programming, how to do everything. Right, the first 6 months is what I've learned so much in that first company. So that's where I learned. So I would say engineering gives the background. Engineering gives the background. Any those skills are useful in IT, and IT as a this thing field, different fields have different circle of demand, right? For the past couple of years, we have seen IT being having demand. Going forward, also IT will have demand. But the other company, other fields, when I was there, Triple E used to have a lot of big demand. Now maybe the demand has come down to a bit. But then I would say when you get into engineering, obviously you will have some preferences, right? You want to become, you want to get into research, you want to get into, say, I know certain friends who will not do anything apart from AAA. They will do that sort of this thing. So there are fields, but it is not about having aspiration alone. It's about putting your energy and creating something unique so that people, when they see the resume, how unique is your resume from another person? That's why I keep harping on for an IT professional. If you get into a code, if you get into this thing and show them the code, tell them I don't have to tell you this is the code, these are the, and don't cut and paste that code and create that code. It should be handwritten by you. So I would say if you are an ECE student, if you are an whatever student, if you are interested in IT, please come, go ahead, learn yourself, equip yourself, prove yourself and get into IT. But if you also want to get, some people electronic students want to get into electronics, telecom oriented or embedded systems, choose that. So it is about what you want. Define what you want and also define, don't stop with definition, take the next step of doing something on it. It is not about keeping in your mind and only reading about it. Make it something tangible. In whatever field, make something tangible. If an EI, if you're an instrumentation student, make some product which is product or whatever prototype or whatever which is tangible, which you can show rather than just talk. Okay, show that. When you get into an interview, when you perform, want to show something, show something. Show a robot that you done or whatever is done in your instrumentation part. Some innovation, right? So that's very important. What I would suggest there is an industry, and you will see, you will have every industry goes through ups and downs. A few years back, mechanical engineers were asked for a lot. Now, maybe not, but maybe after some time we'll come back. And even in mechanical, there are specific fields which are still growing. So choose to be very, as engineers, you have to be very close to what is happening to the industry. All these industry forums, that's what you should be connected to, because that's where you learn and see what is happening in the industry. Every talk you listen to gives you some insights and you take some actions on that insights. Long-winded answer is you should definitely do something tangible in whichever career you want to consider.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. And there's another question. This time it's about time management. They want your guidance with respect to time management, because one of the students asks, like, it is very difficult to cope up with the college courses because we are already doing it virtually. At the same time, we are trying our best to complete the certified courses from different websites, and we are struggling to juggle both of them together, do both of them to do parallelly. Can you guide some tips on time management on how it can work?
Yeah, it's a separate session itself on that.
Okay.
See, what one word, one liner is, everything that is given time and allocated grows. Okay. For example, a lot of people want to exercise. Okay. A lot of people want to write. Some people want to get into music. Some people want to. I'm just taking a philosophical this thing, but I will connect this here. If you give time for something, however small it is, and regularly, that's enough. For example, for learning technology, if you give 1 hour per day and allocate that 1 hour as slot, 9 to 10 or 11 to 12, whatever is the time or which works for you, and stick to that, that 1 hour is good enough. So if you allocate time for a specific activity and stick up to that time for an extended period of 3-4 months, that works. However short, it can be half an hour also, whatever, but I would say you will give 5 minutes, nothing will happen. But about 1 hour to 2 hours for a specific subject on a thing, that's where it works. This is where, and if you see any achiever, right, what is important to you, you have to make time for it. And if you learn about time is very elastic, and if you there is a law, I forgot the name of the law. I recently learned about it. See, time expands or time shrinks. If you are given a project and if it is and if it is without that 1 week only you will finish it in 1 week. If you same project, if they have given a lot of time, you will finish it in 3 months. So it is a normal, because it is we tend to think more about it, we tend to talk about it, we tend to sit on it, not decide on it. But if it is very less time, right, you take decisions quickly. So my suggestion to you is allocate certain time for everything, and that time you do that. And if you consistently do it, however short time that will be very useful. And say you are given half an hour and you think this is helping you a lot and you are making strides, increase that half an hour to 1 hour. Okay, or if you are not at all interested, see how you can make it interesting. That's where you can manage time. And when leaders of countries or leaders of Google and leaders of this thing can manage time, why can't we? So that's my answer to it.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. And the final question for the session today is, programming languages have always been considered essential for anyone who wants to come into IT. Is there any programming language exclusively for data analysis that we have to concentrate on, considering the fact that AI/ML is growing?
Python is a good one. Python is, from an AI/ML concept, Python is a very good language to learn. And you can choose any language, but in terms of you should choose 2 languages so that you are very competent in it and go deep in it. Not superficially. No, when I say Python, you should know everything. And from a data handling, large data handling, I've always heard Python is very good. So learn Python. That's a simple answer.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. Would you like to close it? Yeah.
Yes. First of all, thanks team. Thanks to GTP team for giving me this opportunity. And anybody who wants me to take a separate session for their college or anything, please get in touch with Kriti and Naveen. And if I can work out some time, I will definitely do it. And this session anyway is recorded and pasted. So if you want to use it, use it. So thanks for the time. And this is the last slide. Again, I want to touch 3 things have to work together. And what I wanted to cover today is how can you manage your time, your competency, your this thing for these 3 things: competence, commitment, and connection. And how do you make it productive? So wishing you most and more in this journey of getting qualified, being employable, and everything else in life. Thanks to the Almighty for the opportunity. Thanks for Kriti and Naveen for the opportunity. Thanks, folks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin, for taking the time. I mean, you have been doing it once every fortnight now. So if once every fortnight, you're taking your time out to mentor the students, enrich them. And we noticed that now we started getting questions from different topics. Like today we got from time management, from AI/ML, from what programs to choose, what a non-IT student should do. So with so many questions puzzling around their mind in this quarantine, thank you so much for taking the time to resolve it. And we will connect with the students once again and with a new topic so that you can enrich yourself in this quarantine. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin.
These are the 8 topics which I will cover. We have finished 2, so 6 more are there. Interested people can join and learn. Thank you. Thanks, Kriti. Thanks, Naveen.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin.
I can log off, right, Kriti?